Pod.
Rugby pod.
Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod, where we have the Six Nations round one out of the way, and we had a massive win against Wales. Of course we did. I am English. Scotland were robbed. I know. I'm just trying to get the deflect in and get it all out the way. Scotland were robbed, basically. The game should have been called off. They brought no snorkels. It was dangerous. There was lightning above, and it didn't get called off.
Now or never, you said.
Yeah, you said now or never, Jim. You said this was your year yet again. Well, it is, because you're English.
Let me get this in, because people might just tune out straight after. Okay, you lads have been forcing me to say this is our year, right? You've been forcing me to say it. I haven't willingly said it.
Well, Jim, it's now a two-horse race. It's basically France or England to win it. Maybe three, because Italy and Razzie and Lamaro, they all said they can dream, and they all think they've got a shout.
He has a dream. He has a dream, said Lamaro.
Well, it could be worse, lads. You could be Welsh this Monday afternoon. So the pressure's mounting. Some sleepless nights for coaches already. We're going to get stuck into basically Scotland, Wales, and just pump up England and France, basically. Yeah.
So you know the drill by now. Settle back, enjoy. Make sure you're subscribed on Spotify, YouTube, and everything. Let's get it out of the way. Let's go. This episode is brought to you by Honda. Picking a car is like picking a teammate, and there's a Honda for every kind of player.
There's the classic Civic, SUVs for bringing your kit anywhere, and the compact Jazz for daily runarounds. Plus, the sporty Prelude on the horizon, bringing the power off pitch.
There's EV options, hybrid options, plus safety features like adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist as standard.
Classic Honda reliability and peace of mind.
Visit your local Honda retailer to discover the range and book a test drive.
Jim, can I just start by saying, have you seen that Mick McCarthy interview on, it goes viral, where they keep saying, the interviewer asks him, it can't keep going on like this, can it, Mick? And then Mick McCarthy replies with, it can.
And it is in Wales, Biggs. It is in Wales, mate. It ain't stopping. Is that what you're talking to? Are you talking about Scotland?
Well, I don't know. Where do we start? We've got to start with Scotland, with your boys, Jim. Huh?
I just love the deflection. You two trying to make out who's in a worse spot while you're both fucked because England are winning.
All right, Andrew, let's get it out the way with then. You have been forcing the Scotland narrative more than me. But if you go based on my social media, genuinely, people think that Scotland's loss against Italy was my fault.
Well, it was. I think it was, James, and I have to interject.
Why? How?
You said kick the Italians out the URC, Jim.
I didn't say that.
What did you say then?
I specifically didn't say that. When someone asked me what would you do with the Italians, I gave an idea of what I would do. I never specifically said kick them out.
What did you say?
Anyway, the URC's got nothing to do with the Six Nations. Genuinely, I am glad to see that Italy have put a team together under Quesada that now, looking at what they did at the weekend, we will get into the game and we can make a million excuses for Scotland. We can say it was a 50-50 game because of the weather. I am genuinely happy to my Italian listeners, my Italian friends. Don't go based on what I said about restructuring club rugby. I ain't got a fucking clue what's going on or what I'm even saying. Go based on that Italian team. And we have said it, and Rassie said it, and Johnny Wilkinson said that they win the Six Nations, and I was laughing. But I'm not saying that they can win the Six Nations. That is a very good Italian team from what you saw. And again, you cannot look at that game and get a gauge on how good a team is. The skill sets are limited, and the weather was a washout.
Do you know what, though? He's done a brilliant job, hasn't he, Quesada, since he's come in? If you look at his record post, since he's taken over, post World Cup 2023, wasn't there there was a stat going on? They've won as many Six Nations games as Scotland in that time. In terms of
big starting early.
How many
Wales won?
How
many Wales won, pal?
We're in a completely different boat there altogether. But you look at how we beating Australia in the autumn, running South Africa close, draw against France away from home had it not been for the ball falling off the tee, and they have got some players. You look at that back line, and I know this probably isn't helping your case, Jim, but in terms of players out injured as well, in terms of Lucchesi, in terms of Capuazzo, these guys, Negri and things, there was a lot of key guys missing for those guys who probably slot into that team. Varney wasn't fit and available. So he's done a brilliant job there, and they're they are certainly competing now. And I know a lot of people tipped them, probably myself included, because I thought Wales would be a fair bit better than they were on Saturday for the wooden spoon. But they looked a proper team on Saturday. They got their tactics absolutely spot on and played the conditions perfectly.
Yeah, Jim, you know, I understand your point of like the pitch in the second half was a disgrace, wasn't it? Like it was snorkel territory. You know, the lads needed their ski goggles or swimming goggles on to see what was going on. But where you've got to credit Italy, and you talk about coaches out-coaching other coaches, that opening sort of 20 minutes, and you said limited skill set. It was limited skill set, I thought, for the last 60 minutes when it started absolutely pushing it done. But the reality of it was that opening 20 minutes, the tries they scored were perfectly well coached, great setup tries. They've obviously looked at Tom Jordan at fullback, and Louis Liner said
That's true.
Louis Liner said it after the game, didn't he? In an interview, just talking about we knew we could. You've got two vertically challenged wingers, and I'm not 6'8" like you, Jim, but they didn't have any height in the back three at all, and you've got a fullback that is playing out of position. Yeah, I said it last week around why aren't you picking Blair Kinghorn, and we had that debate, didn't we? Around he's been playing 10 for Toulouse, has he been playing that well? But you're picking a guy at international level in Tom Jordan who hasn't played there at all for Bristol, or hardly played there at all for Bristol. Has he played there much at international level? Nowhere near Blair Kinghorn. And I know some of the kicks that were competitive kicks early on were, you know, millimetres in between taking them or not. But that first try where they put the kick through, Tom Jordan, you can't get away from it. He's massively out of position. He's way too far up and high up in the field. If that's Blair Kinghorn on that first try, 100% it's Tom Jordan's fault. There's no way the fullback should be up in the line like that.
I think if you're looking at shifting the blame on someone, I think Carl Staines more out of position than Tom Jordan.
Oh, he is. Yeah. I mean, you're working as a three in the pendulum, aren't you? But best fullbacks in the world would not be flat with their winger there on the outside.
Well, and you said as well, like with Lewis Liner's interview after, he mentioned that they'd identified that. And from my perspective, lads, when I saw the team, I thought it's the best team that he's picked.
Yeah.
But then that is me saying for guys that are in form, and Blair Kinghorn hasn't been playing well for Toulouse. He's been in and out of kind of position, hasn't been at the level where, like Tom Jordan has, for example, for Bristol. But it shows you, and you lads know about the back three and the pendulum and everything a lot better than I do. And I could see that there was something wrong. But I think in hindsight, and again, we can all base it on what would you have done. If it was an open game and it was a drier ball, you would have seen the skill set of Jamie Dobby. You would have seen the skill set of a Tom Jordan come into it. But as it happened, there was a load of kick in, and the two opportunities that they got, Italy, which they were incredible at, by the way, when they took them opportunities, they were physical, they were at the line, they looked connected, fell around the back three, which was out of all of the Scotland team, when you looked at the starting 15, the only real changes that we've seen, or there could have been an argument for, would have been in the back three, right? And people like Douan or Darcy or Blair Kinghorn, and we mentioned Douan not being informed, but that is the only difference we've seen in the Scotland team over the last 12 months, where it is different going into that first game. So just on that point, just to kind of close off my thoughts on the game, I think you can blame the weather to a degree because it got into that kind of tussle. But I'm there and I'm crediting Italy with how physical they were around the breakdown, how good their scrum was. They dominated Scotland in the scrum. They absolutely decimated the line out. And I was chatting to a couple of mates around Ewan Ashman, right? So the hooker, for example, will always get the blame. Ewan Ashman is at fault for maybe one line out, maybe one. And that's where Matt Ferguson goes up and he's double top, and it's a great drill, but the ball's slippy. And I can see why he's gone double top, because they've lost the last three line outs on the spin. So maybe the game management of not taking the points, they would have known that the weather was coming in. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they were overconfident, but they've gone for the line out. They've lost three line outs 5 meters out effectively, which you talk about, are Scotland good enough to compete, even to win the Six Nations? And we saw it during the autumn and we saw it again at the weekend. If you cannot execute in that part of the field, you ain't winning the Six Nations. You're just not. Like, how many opportunities do we need? And you have to credit Zambanini in the second row, who was at Exeter, fantastic looking human being. Aside from them things, he took Scotland to the cleaners at the line out. And I just want to reiterate, because Ewan Ashman will be getting stick because of the high tackle, but mainly because of the line out. George Turner comes on, gets sin-binned as well for, I thought it was harsh, I'll be honest, for the clear out. That there is a team issue. That isn't a hooker issue. What I'm trying to say is, regardless of the weather, no excuses from my side. Italy thoroughly deserved that win. And am I annoyed? I'm not really annoyed. No,
yeah, you are.
I'm genuinely not.
I'm not
because
bothered.
What can you do? No, what can you do, or what can you say? You can only go based at the game at the weekend that you've seen. And Italy were fractionally, marginally, like the scoreline says, slightly better, and they deserve to win. And that is what it is. And we'll get a bounce back against England, probably beating.
Scotland, how does Scotland play? Scotland want to get the ball into the 13-15 channel as quickly as possible. They want to use their ball playing forwards to move the point of contact with their skills, and they want to dominate the ball. And in those conditions, you are the worst thing you can do is have the ball. Scotland had 70% possession in that game. So you think of that, you think 70% possession and pretty much 70% territory. But where they couldn't get any pressure from that territory is because they were playing a completely different game to what they're used to. They were trying to outmuscle Italy because it was one pass rugby, because it was just up the jumper stuff, because of the conditions. As you mentioned, Jim, it doesn't help when you lose 3 or 4 lineouts in the opposition 22. You can't exert any pressure. And it was actually quite easy for Italy to defend, not because of any real fault of Scotland, but just because of the conditions. And it's a game that Scotland aren't used to playing. And we said it on the pod a couple of weeks ago, this Six Nations, when we talked about, are Scotland going to be contenders? Are they going to be there? And they could still be, guys. Right? Like England, they beat England on Saturday, and it's a completely different complexity about it, isn't it? But the Six Nations is not about playing the best rugby. It is about winning the big moments. And Scotland had enough big moments on Saturday to get that game or find a way to win, and they didn't manage to get it done. So I think from my point of view, you think of, right, Italy would have been absolutely delighted to have had 30% possession in that game. That's probably too high a number for them in terms of how bad the conditions were. So I just think it was such a different game to what Scotland are used to playing and are good at playing.
Yeah, well, Scotland won it. Once the rain came in, They won the game if you go specifically of when it was raining. So it was them first 2 tries in the game, and Scotland nearly at the end come back. I thought Ben O'Keefe blew his whistle too early, and I don't know whether that is biased and what your thoughts on that.
A mole's a mole, pal. A mole's a mole, pal.
Mole's a mole. I know that. You're that's coming at the side as well, are you? I'm not complaining.
Yes! There's a nibble!
I'm not.
There's a nibble!
I am. But anyway, I watched that game and I thought fair play to Italy, because again, from an Italian perspective, how many times have you seen them in that position and and then they go on to lose the game? So this just puts more pressure on Gregor, puts more pressure on the team. But this is the sport, right?
Yeah.
This is and this is also the level where Scotland are at. Until they prove, they don't need to prove me, but until they prove people otherwise, and that's why I have been so reluctant. And before the game, I tweeted Scotland by 12. It's a biased take. Like, that's what it is. If it's an expert take, and if you looked at the stats and you looked at history and you looked at their results over the last Six Nations and you look at the autumn, you ain't calling Scotland to win the Six Nations, are you? You can't do that. And so it is what it is. It doesn't massively bother me. I'm a bothered.
You are, James.
I'm a bothered.
You are.
I'm not. There's a part of me that I'm gutted for the lads.
Yeah.
That it's year on year, that you've gone there, the game's a washout, and now all the pressure's on them. But Biggs, you've played against Scotland, right? I've played for Scotland. We've got big games in us. So there could be no surprise, right? If it unfolded like this, we got beat by Italy, we beat England, lose to Wales, beat France, get smoked by Ireland. That could happen.
It would be the most Scottish thing ever to beat England this weekend.
Of course it would. And that's what it is. Are we good enough to win top-level test matches? Yes. Are we good enough to win tournaments and championships? No. We've never done it. So until we prove otherwise, until that shifts and we go to Italy in them conditions and get a win, we're getting smoked by France at home, but we manage to pull out a win, then we're not going to win anything. It's as simple as that. I'm bothered.
I genuinely think it is the worst thing for England that Scotland performed in that way, because nothing will sharpen the mind, nothing will get the juices flowing than having to be backs against the wall a little bit after that first game. Question marks around Gregor now, and it's coming from everywhere. If he doesn't beat England this weekend, I think his job's gone. Not necessarily straight away, but at the end of the Six Nations, because, again, it's the same old, same old. If you lose to England, you then might beat Wales away. You might lose to France at home quite comfortably. And then you're like, the question I ask is, if that team was coached by Franco Smith at the weekend, I think Scotland would have won.
So the question to ask then, is this Calcutta Cup game the defining factor whether Gregor Townsend keeps his job or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we go on to the next game, and then you say the same again. Biggs?
I said before the tournament, I think if Scotland finish fourth again, I think it's difficult for them, not probably for the SRU, not to make a change.
Yeah, there's too much pressure now.
If they lose Saturday, but then win the next three and manage to finish third, and who knows, but I think if they finish fourth, I'm not going on week to week, but I think if they finish fourth in this Six Nations, he's under pressure, even more pressure than he is already.
And this is a big statement, unless there's a big shift, not just England, going to Wales, winning that game, beating France at home. You could probably allow a loss in Dublin. But I just feel if he doesn't win the next 3 out of 4, I feel like the pressure's going to be there for him anyway. And unless his contract is about being bought out of the contract financially, you do wonder whether or not he feels it himself and says, look, for the better of Scotland, it might be best that we put someone else in the position before the World Cup, give them a decent run in, and he go and take the reins at Newcastle. But we're not at that place yet. And I say that just to go back to the conditions at the weekend. Apart from the line out, and I know these are apart from and this and this and this, there was nothing between the teams. Scotland could have come back at the end there and won it. Should have taken 3, drawn the game. However you look at it, there was nothing between them two teams at the weekend. If you go based on Italy, everyone's talking about the most improved team. Rassi thinks they're going to finish second or third. So that was a good Italy team that we nearly beat in those conditions. So I'm not saying that around Tooney until I see how it unfolds over the next 2 weeks. But it's awesome. The narratives around this tournament as we get through the rest of these games are brilliant. I love it. And again, a big congratulations to Italy. I love Italy. I've got mates in there, mates who've been involved in the coaching setup, played with many of the guys for the Barbarians and stuff like that. Sergio Parise, seeing him, they deserve it. It's their time. And, when you look at that Italian team, that comes down to investment, that comes down to patience, and it comes down to building a strength in depth of athlete that you're starting to see now. Some of the athletes playing for Italy now, Zambanini, Zuolani, the Canoni brothers, when they play, Melancello, Ignacio Brex, they are incredible athletes. And that is and whether or not Wales or whether or not Scotland will be given that luxury to bring these through, because Scotland are going to be a team in transition, but Wales specifically, when we look over the weekend, look what Italy have got coming through now. And that's taken them, you tell me, 15 years to get to that point.
Give the Scottish fans some good news though, Jim.
Well, if the Scotland fans want to go over to Ireland, then it'll be great news. So one for our Scottish and Irish listeners, or just super fans. We're going back to Dublin, lads.
We certainly are, James. Thursday, the 12th of March at the Croke Park Hotel. Massive thanks to our friends at GHA Discovery. And better still, the event will be absolutely free. You don't even have to put your hand in your pockets to come. All you've got to do is sign up to GHA Discovery through the link on our website, therugbypod.com.
Like Andrew said, the app is absolutely free and can be used to book any of your Six Nations hotels, whether that be in Paris, Rome, or Dublin. For this one specifically, use GHA Discovery and you'll get $50 credit. You'll get a gold membership. You'll get discounts. You'll get early check-ins and late checkouts. It's a very good tool indeed.
Certainly is. So get the app today. Come to a free Rugby Pod live show. Sort your hotels out for the rugby. But remember to sign up using the link on our website. And we'll see you in Dublin for quite a few pints.
And you'll get $50.
$50.
Free. $50.
How then, Goody? I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about it. What are we as England fans taking from that big performance over Wales?
We are winning it, boys. We're winning the Grand Slam. We are an amazing team. George Ford is a legend. Steve Borthwick is a legend. I'm going back on everything I've ever said negatively about certain people. No. Listen, it was a reasonably good performance The problem is, and we've got Bigs on. I know you're on the game, Bigs, and Jim, you're on the game with a different channel as well. But I'm watching it in the stands with beers in hand, with a few mates, and it was like men against boys. And I feel harsh saying that to Wales because we've tried to be positive, but it just looked like a team. Honestly, it looked like a team, and there was a lot of hope around Steve Tandy and the coaches, but the Wales team looked like a rabble that had just been lobbed together the day before the game of a bunch of school kids and like just fresh out of uni lads or whatever, whereas the England team looked sharp. And it wasn't a purring England, like the bench came on, didn't have a massive impact. 48-7, as bad as that sounds, I think flattered Wales massively. That should and could have been 70 points. So England were good. George Ford pulled the strings beautifully, got man of the match. Big Gin, Jolly Chesham, thought he was
got man of the match.
Yeah, he was outstanding in the second row. I was like wicked player. Henry Arundel gets a hat trick. Like there's a load of positive signs for England, but there wasn't much in front of us. You got to beat what's in front of you, and I don't want to be too harsh, but Wales were abysmal.
Yeah, well, we spoke after the game in terms of summing it up, and like you say, Goody, we don't like you don't want to be. You want to be positive about this new coaching group and the new inexperienced group. I won't say new group, but certainly an inexperienced at test level. But there does, when you put that shirt on, whether it's for any of the six, any international team, there comes a certain responsibility to at least perform at a certain level. And there's a minimum standard, isn't there? And I thought Wales were, as I said after the game, I thought Wales were quite a bit short of that in that first 40 in particular. And that's when the game ultimately was done inside 20 minutes, wasn't it? So whether that was self-inflicting wounds like not tapping the ball, penalties at line out, penalties for obstruction, yellow cards, low phase count, high error count, very little to be positive. And I've tried, and I want to be positive about Wales, but it was very difficult to be positive after that first 40. Now, you hope that there's going to be a massive reaction, but then you think, okay, well, they're playing France on Sunday with the roof closed, where France looked amazing on Thursday night. But I think you've got to accept as well, as Welsh fans, players, supporters, whoever you are, if you've got anything to do with it, like these are not the games Wales can almost win at the minute, but there has to be ways in which you lose. And I think, you looked at the under-20s on Friday night. They went 16-0 up against England in Northampton. Like, showed some real character, and again, you look at that's the way things are. England under-20s probably would be relative. I know the conditions weren't great either there on Friday, but like they should have won. They should always be winning that by a bit more, shouldn't they? So there's ways to lose. They rolled their sleeves up, threw a few shots. Unlike the team on Saturday, it was really disappointing. But I thought England were workmanlike, very low error count. They were professional. They looked like they were patient. They looked like a team who are well drilled, know what their tactics are, know when they can pick their moments to be a bit more expansive. And I actually thought they did really well. They obviously targeted James at 13 because they were looking to put balls across the face of him, try and get on the outside of him, which I thought England, I haven't seen, England have been really good in terms of that transition period and then moving the ball. But I thought that once they got on the front foot, George Ford picked his moments beautifully, when to deliver those passes, when to spray the ball, when to keep the ball in front of his forwards. And I thought that was something, it looked as if they targeted that area with your pace on the wing, with your Arundel, your Roebuck, your Freeman at 13. And I thought they were really, really workmanlike. I actually think it's quite a decent little run out for them before next Saturday, because I think they didn't have any real injury concerns from the game. They had a good blowout of had a little bit more of a fight in the second half. And I think they'll use that quite nicely to go into Saturday at Murrayfield.
Yeah, a few headbutts going around, but they weren't headbutts.
Oh, well, maybe we can talk about a few things that happened in the game. And like from my perspective, I thought that was going to be the result. There was a part of me that thought that might even be the scoreline. What I was shocked, and shocked's a big word I know, and disappointed with was the performance. And it was so difficult for Wales because for 40 minutes of the game, they were down to 13 men effectively and all the chopping and changing. But I don't know where I convinced myself from. Maybe it was the parts of the game against Argentina in the autumn, 4 tries against New Zealand. But where I convinced myself that I thought Wales would be better was some of the stuff that I've seen around Steve Tandy and this kind of coaching group and having the right front man in charge and passionate and desperation, I suppose, these words that are used when you're having to fight uphill and your backs are against the wall and everything that's going on. Like, I love the feeling of desperation and seeing that in players. But unfortunately, Biggs, and I feel bad because I was doing RTE and you can only call it how it is, right? And to call it how it is to basically say that Wales were absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Wales were poor.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how else to say it because it was obvious, right? And it does come across negative. And I also don't like calling players out and all of these things. I know how difficult it is. I've been in games. I played for Scotland when we were poor, but we were never that poor.
Do you know what? I saw something that Martin Johnson said beforehand on Italy, Scotland, and everyone thinks the higher performing teams or the better teams or the higher level you get to, you have to complicate things or you have to add more to your game. And I think it's he was saying it's the exact opposite. The higher you get and the better teams are the teams that do the fundamentals 7 out of 10 every single game. And clearly Wales are not in that bracket by any stretch of the imagination, but England are at the minute. And it would have been so easy for England to have gone away from their game model and thought, this is Wales at Allianz Stadium. We're at home. You know, Wales haven't won for 2 years. Let's fling the ball around. Let's get the crowd excited early doors. But they've got a master at 10 at the minute who can just keep the ball in front of his forwards, who can pick his moment, who can just keep the team disciplined. And discipline, everyone thinks discipline is not giving away penalties. Of course it is, but it's, can you stay disciplined and patient in your shape, the correct numbers at rucks, etc. And they were just patient, ruthless, and just did the fundamentals. You look at, like, you guys were like that 11 to 15 All Blacks team. Yes, they were brilliant, but they didn't give you anything. They never made, it felt like you played against them and never gave you anything, never made a mistake. Same with the Springboks team at the minute. Yes, they're maybe slightly different and they're trying different things, but you look underneath all of it, set piece, kicking game, defence. And that's what wins you test matches.
Do you know what was symptomatic of the game actually at the weekend was a few of the England tries? So you think about Henry Arundel's try, was it his second try? I think it might have been.
And by the way, how was he on for man of the match when he had 3 walk-in tries? With all due respect.
Yeah, well, it's a headline thing, isn't it? Because he scored 3. But the one where Wales had the centre field scrum and they do the play to the right-hand side and they're looking for Thomas Williams, I think, round the back, and the pass is nowhere near him. Like, it's not his fault. It was so disconnected from the Wales team. England pick it up. I think Dingwall picks it up, ships it onto Arundel, and he walks in. So that's a sort of cause of a really poor Welsh team, just gifting a try like that. But then how many times, and you boys were both on comms and studio and whatever for different entities, but how many times have England got, like, how many times do you get a 5-man overlap in a game? Like, we've all played a lot of rugby, and Biggs, you've seen attack and I've seen attack, and the amount of times England have got like a 5-man overlap somewhere. And I know Wales had 4 yellow cards and gave 16 penalties away, but it was just too easy to get numbers. And that's a basic fundamental of defence, numbering up or seeing dangers. And it was just like shocking from Wales. But as you said, workmanlike from England. I'd have gone about a 7 out of 10 for England. Played a simple game, were effective. George Ford pulling the strings. Ollie Chesham, absolutely dominant. The only bad thing that happened for England was Maro comes on and 15 seconds later, he's back in the bin and the whole place is laughed. People were laughing because he's come onto a mega
That's
cheer.
That's happened to me before, by the way.
And then he's like, what? He's like, what? I'm like, no, Maro, it was a team warning. You got to go.
Do you know what, Goody? You made a really good point there that, like the overlap question.
Yeah.
I think Wales were so beaten up physically. They were so worried about compressing their defensive line and making sure that they were tighter around the ruck. And I know there was a couple of occasions where they were down to 13 and England took advantage. But the Roebuck try at the start of the second half, if you pause it when the wide shot is on the camera, I mean, any one of 4 of them could have scored. Yeah. So you can see how tight they are close to the line. And that's been a real issue for Wales. They've been too easy they've conceded too many tries too easily in their own 22. So, look, a huge amount of work for Wales. The only thing I can say is like they need and I know it's not easy when the team is losing as much as this, but you have to get back to the Principality on Sunday. Almost forget that you're playing France. You have to try and get the crowd in there, because I've been there when things are great and when things are tough. You need as many people behind that team in that stadium buying tickets. That now is not the time to walk out on the team, in a sense. This is when almost the team and this young group and inexperienced coaching group need the support of the nation to get people back in the stadium, to get people sort of seeing some fight, because they can't be that bad again. And if they are, then they're in big trouble.
Got a listener's question here for you, lads. Rodri wants to know your thoughts on the Luis Rees-Zammit to 15 experiment.
Ooh, Rodri. All right, Rodri.
I'll give him my one line on it. I thought he looked very good at 15.
Yeah.
I don't know positionally, though, obviously, right? Because I thought that Tom Jordan and the back three for Scotland was the right call. But when he got the ball, especially in the second half, and he carried and had the opportunity, and it was a shot to nothing, really. And that shot to nothing actually showed that if he can get the ball, he can break tackles, and he does look bigger and he looks more powerful. And I really like the look of him, whether or not it's 15 or wing.
Yeah, he's one of the very few real X-Factor world-class players in that group at the minute, isn't he? So I thought he went okay.
Yeah.
I thought he carried the ball back nicely, looked strong, looked solid. Obviously got charged down, which led to the first penalty, I think, wasn't it, by Underhill. But other than that, he's one of the few who came out with some credit in the bank. I think they stick with him there again. I think they'll want his counter-attack and they'll want more touch. And hopefully in the next 4 games, they'll actually have a little bit more ball where they can use him on the ball a bit better, not just from kick receipt. They'll hope to exert a little bit more pressure, get more touches in phase play, closer to the ball, closer to the rucks, where he can maybe sort of use his footwork on bigger guys. And so I thought it was a solid outing, yeah. This Six Nations, we're teaming up with Vodafone, the nation's network and proud partner of Welsh Rugby, to bring fans closer to the game. We'll be doing a massive Rugby Pod live show in Cardiff with some Welsh legends, past and present. We have 90 Six Nations match tickets to give away on the pod for Wales versus Scotland men's and women's. And I'm going to be taking some fans behind the scenes at Principality Stadium with me for a private tour. We want Welsh fans to send us in your inspiring stories. Who deserves the match tickets? So fans who've done something special, have overcome challenges, or have given back to the community. You can also register at ticketpass.org to get tickets to the Cardiff live event with myself, Big Jim, Warren Gatlin, Philippa Tuttiett, and Jack Morgan. And a massive thanks to Vodafone for helping us bring fans closer to the game. How did the live watch-along go, boys, Thursday night?
Oh.
France versus Ireland.
Oh.
Yeah, we had too many. It was too late. We got excited, and it was the first time we've done it. I loved it. It's
you need a 2 p.m. kickoff for that, Jim, don't you?
We probably did. It's the football analogy. Get them in early so they don't ruin themselves and start causing chaos in the streets.
Yeah.
No, I loved it. It was great to be in the studio with the boys. Rob, maybe did you enjoy it, Rob? You were with us.
It was good. It's a difficult thing to manage, watching a game and then also realising that people are watching you, and then, it's quite tricky to... I think we've learned stuff for next time.
It ain't, Rob. You, like multitasking, you've got to be able to watch a game.
You sat there and read the comment section out.
Mate, but I'm analysing the game as we're doing it, mate. I can do that.
That was the freak in it.
You're sat there glued to the screen. You can't even talk, pal, because you're just so obsessed with the ruggers. But you got to be able to...
It was good, though.
Yeah, it was great fun. I loved it. And like you, Jim, I had a few too many.
Yeah, we did. Well, that was the issue. We had a few too many, and because it was late at night and I'm with the boys and I've been at home for the last couple of months, there was a lot of swearing. So I do apologise for that. I don't know how commercially sellable it is when you're swearing that much. So we'll hopefully beep them out. But it was... For us, it's a new thing to be able to do, and the fact that it was on a Thursday night was great. The fact that it was such a big game, it was great. There's clearly, for the people that understand media or look at it, there's loads that we can work on, loads of work-ons for us.
Yeah. We'll get better next week.
We just need to get better next week if we're back next week. Yeah. We might do another game here, but it was just, it's really cool to be able to interact with the fans as the game's unfolding, and yeah, there's a bit to work on in the back end with the production team. Slug hands. He had 2 beers, one in each hand stuck to his hand, so he couldn't do any work.
It was too sweaty. No, it's interesting because obviously it's always the fine balance with it, isn't it? So I've had loads of comments where people loved it. You and Jim just being yourself, and obviously Ryan Wilson was there, and a big shout and thanks to Premier Sports as well for sponsoring it. But we, you're going commercial, you can't be saying this, you can't be doing that. But if we're natural and us, it's always that balance, isn't it? Of, the people tuning in just sending abusive messages in about Jim's trainers that he didn't take very well, or Goody looks a bit sweaty because I'm getting hot in studio and drinking a load of beers. What do you want from it is the thing. Do you want to go commercial and be yes James, no James, 3 bags full James, or do you want to have a crack with it and be us? And that's the balance that we need to find as a team.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that was what you saw on Thursday night,
raw.
Or if you listen to it back, was raw. That was us, basically. I'm an idiot.
What did you think of the actual game?
Well, France were very good. Weren't they? Like the way they attacked, their offloading game. Jalibert at 10 plays off the cuff, but creates stuff and makes it. Ireland were off the pace, and this ain't changing the result. France were the better team. First try was a forward pass. Doesn't get checked properly.
No, do you know?
Mate, it's not.
Because Andrew, we were watching it and you said the first 2 tries. So I can't see, pal, because I am 6 deep watching it. So I'm like, well, you must be right. But because the replays were so bad, because it's French TV, we never got the angles on it. I would say even that first one was...
Definite forward, mate.
You know what? You're saying forward there, right?
Comes out his hands forward.
For me, okay, so forward, okay, flat, whatever. I think it was flat. So if we say that it was forward... maybe marginally or flat. That doesn't. He's scoring that try anyway.
But it's a forward pass, James. You've got to go back to it. It's a forward pass. What about Dupont's knock on at the back of the scrum that didn't get checked because the French director wouldn't replay the scrum, and then
he wouldn't have made it out of the Stade de France if he pulled that one back.
Jalibert scored straight after the knock on. It's the clearest knock on ever at the back of the scrum.
So with that there, and I'll let you lads get into the details about the game. But I cannot believe that in 2026, with the amount of money, that's the most viewed game. It broke TV records. This was meant to be in other news, but it had 7.24 million viewers on average watching that game. So it's the biggest TV audience they've had to watch a rugby match on a Thursday night. So it works. And they're not getting the true experience because some director with the fags in his mouth is like, no, I don't do this, which I think is mental. And if that needs to get called out, that needs to be looked at because, again, didn't have an effect on the game. But as we go through the gears here, if that is England-France for the Grand Slam decider at the end of the tournament and these things ain't being checked, with the current cadence, it ain't being checked, is it? Because they no do, they smoke and they don't do. I don't do it.
Andy Farrell was pretty scathing after the fact, wasn't he, about Ireland's performance?
Fuming.
I liked it.
Absolutely. Yeah, he had more in him. He wanted to fill someone in. He wanted blood, didn't he? He wanted to go back to Northern Wigan, take them down by the canals and start water. You can't say that. He wanted, you could see, that's as angry as I've seen him after a game.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, like he's always said around the desire and everything like that, they got... that opening 20 minutes, I said Scotland were lacklustre, Ireland were as well. And the game now is about power and pace at the top level, isn't it? And Ireland seemed to lack that. Had they been overtrained, or was it just France? They couldn't handle the change of direction in attack, changing the point of contact, the offloading game. But he was raging, and rightly so. And you look across the Ireland team, and there's a lot of doom and gloom in Ireland at the minute. So, Bigs, from Wales's point of view, you're at the lowest ebb. Scotland aren't far behind at the minute. But Ireland have gone from, you think back to it, 2 years ago, they won the Six Nations with Jack Crowley at 10. And they probably should have won a Grand Slam had they not lost to England right near the death at Allianz Stadium. And it has been a downward spiral ever since, really. And they've got loads of players missing, Mac Hansen and various others that are potentially X-Factor players. But when you question and mark from the head coaches around desire and effort, and you see how bad he was after the game, and like Jim said, he wants to go and smash someone's head in, that's just unacceptable from an Irish point of view. You can get outplayed, you can get... you can clap France all you want because some of their rugby was off the charts good at times, helped by Carl Dixon and Ian Tempest. But when you're questioning the desire of players, as Faz did, that's a bigger question mark, isn't it?
I think it's really interesting because obviously I'm not on the ground in Ireland and not sort of, you don't get, when you're out of or not in that country, you don't really get the full appreciation because you're not going in and speaking to people in supermarkets or whatever and getting the gist of how the public are feeling about the team. But it seems like there's a big concern around the group, doesn't it? And the drop off and things like that. But I was looking at it, and in the last 12 months, the only teams they've lost to: France, South Africa, New Zealand.
Yeah.
So where I see it is, if that's them really concerned, then they're not in as bad a place as people think. Now the front row issues and the aging squad gets brought up and who's underneath, etc. Yeah, I understand that. But if your drop off, at the minute, it feels like Ireland probably just can't get over the line or compete in the last 12 months with France, South Africa, New Zealand.
That's a great point.
It's not that big a drop off. Now we come on this pod pretty much every week and say South Africa are the best team in the world by a country mile.
Jim does.
Nobody's beaten those.
Yeah, Jim does.
we that France, they were on for a Grand Slam 12 months ago. If they'd have got the job done against France in Ireland, and they were 35 minutes away. They were up at 45 minutes. They're up on the scoreboard. The performance level on Thursday night was nowhere near what they're used to and what they expect of each other. But you look at what they've achieved, this Ireland squad, and how much success they've had. So hard to now think, well, just because you've lost to France twice, New Zealand and South Africa, that we're the worst team in the world. I actually think there's loads more in this Irish team, but that's probably not going to sort of sit well with Irish people, saying that you're not probably in the same, you're not dining at the very, very top table with these guys at the minute.
The worrying thing is around it, and I completely get your point, Biggs, but it's more the way and the style of the play that they've gone to. So they haven't got many players that you look at and go, he could do something or he could create something. Whereas these top teams, you've got your Jalibert, your Duponts in France, Malvaca up front, or Mirfu or Guillard.
Everyone.
Yeah, you just let me list the England team. You can name a number of players that can produce something. The top teams, even Scotland, and I say even Scotland, I'm only saying even Scotland because they lost to Italy, but you've got Tuipulotu, you've got Finn Russell, you've got a number of guys there that can create stuff. And Ireland, it's very system-based. And when you haven't got an X-factor player or, the pace or power or size to change something, Prendergast at 10, Jack Crowley, and I'll repeat it, they won the Six Nations 2 years ago with Crowley at 10 playing week in, week out. And he's, on the bench now. I know they bring him on. Prendergast wasn't up to it on Thursday night. Defensively, again, was an issue. And they look a bit lost. And yes, they've only lost those games to some top teams, but that's where they're at the top of the sort of downward slide now, aren't they? Where it's like, how far down do you go? So you have to have these conversations. And you won't hear Faz saying, mate, we've only lost to New Zealand, South Africa and France. That's all we've lost to. They're the top teams. He'll be more concerned about how they look as an outfit and where they can get to. And they've got class players, of course they have, but it's more the whole thing around how they're playing. And you can't look at them and go, actually, you can see them tearing up here, can you?
In the media, in Ireland, because how we are as UK and Ireland, we're quite dour, we're quite negative, there's a big expectation, is they've almost talked themselves out of it. Oh, we haven't got this, the quarterfinal of the World Cup, the injuries that we've got. But one thing, when I look at Ireland, they don't have that same aura, even though they've only lost to them teams that you've mentioned there, France, New Zealand, South Africa. But for me, Ireland had an aura. Peter O'Mahony, Bundy Aki, James Lowe when he was on fire, whoever they had at 10, Gary Ringrose, Robbie Henshaw, when Mac Hansen was playing, Hugo Keenan, world class in the air, Ty Furlong, Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, James Ryan when he was on fire, with what other second row that you had. Caelan Doris was the best number 8 in the world. Josh van der Fleer was on fire as well. And when I look at Ireland now, whether or not they've talked themselves into it, whether or not it's off the back of a Lions tour and it's been a bit glitchy because Andy Farrell's not there, which actually has been a discussion in Ireland. Yeah. Like, why would you let Andy Farrell go and coach a British and Irish Lions tour 2 years before a World Cup that you're expecting to go there and win, which is a great point in itself. But I do feel when you look at Ireland, and again, we'll only judge them over the next few weeks, won't we? But there is just superficially and kind of aesthetically, there's a different look and feel to them. That's what it looks like. When you see Jameson Gibson-Parr, he's not doing the same as he was, but he's not got the same 10 outside him. And he's also not got the pack that's getting them over the line. Do you remember we were talking about Ireland and everything was quick ball?
Yeah.
How good are they at the breakdown? Maybe the law iterations and the fact that they're pinging people for flying off their feet now has changed things, because they were so violent and aggressive at the breakdown, and it was absolute chaos, and they should have been locked up half the time with what they were doing around the breakdown. But that allowed them to get the quick ball. Where I was chatting to Lewis Ludlow, and Gloucester were playing Leinster. I said, mate, what was it like? He said, Jim, we had plans for everything. He said the speed and the physicality was like something he'd never seen. And that's when Ireland were in their pomp. That's when the Leicester backbone was the Irish team. And you're just not seeing that now. They're really struggling to get that attack and the front foot, especially off 9.
The biggest thing that stands out for me around the stats, France, 19 offloads in the game, and we saw how they play and played. Ireland only had 6. So when you're not winning gain line, when you're the set piece battle wasn't actually that big, was it? So the scrum didn't falter like people thought.
We said that as well.
But when you're not getting over the gain line from your launch plays, you've got to find a different way of playing. And if that's going to a kicking game to win the ball back, or is it an offload game where you're moving the point of contact in the tackle? Just nothing happened for them. And that's a big thing where they've got to look at something different. When they're not getting over the gain line, they haven't got monsters to go, fuck you, I'm running over 3 boys and we'll get quick ball that way. You've got to find a different way to play, and that's where I think they're struggling at the minute.
I thought the guys at halftime summed it up. I think it was Brian Driscoll summed it up really well. As he said, one team played the conditions in that first half, and the other looked as if they hadn't known it'd been raining all day. Yeah. Because France just dominated territory, and they dominated territory because the way the game is at the minute, if you can win physical battles and win aerial battles, you're guaranteed to get territory. Yeah. And what this French team are desperate for, we spoke about the territory and possession stats in that Scotland-Italy game. But France, you cannot allow France into your 22, because as soon as they're in there, they're coming away with something because of the power they've got.
They can do things that other teams can't. They are unbelievable with some of their skill set. And I've not seen players, New Zealand, who can play with the ball similarly to that. But Louis Bielbarré and Ramos with these touches off his feet that aren't flukes, right?
That was a fluke.
He knows what.
Biggs, do you reckon that was a fluke? Me and Jim debated this.
No, I think he if it was anybody else, I'd have said yes. I think he's got that in him to have tried that, seen that, and the confidence. I think he's gone for it. Yeah, I do.
He's a shithouse though, isn't he?
But similarly, you talk about athletes, and we speak about South Africa. What you're seeing with France now, and looking at Michele Gia, and he played number 8 against South Africa. And like, who is this lad? But he's just one, right? But you could literally look at the players that they've got. They are bringing in players of size and power, which Ireland don't have, for example, just specifically on that game.
They don't want to be getting into like lots of phases in their own half, and they don't want to be getting into a short kicking battle because you're wasting a lot of those big boys' energy in the mid. They're not multi-phase forwards. What they are is they're power athletes that they want to be using all their energy in each 22, stopping team scoring and scoring themselves. And I just thought they were brilliant in terms of physical battles they won, aerial battles they won, and which I saw. When have you ever heard of I thought it was a disciplined performance from France, and that's not normally something you associate with France. But since Sean Edwards has come in, they've been exactly that. And they didn't give away a single penalty in that first half. Admittedly, they weren't under a huge amount of pressure.
Carl Dixon helped them.
You win all the physical battles, all the aerial battles. You've got an absolute magician. And I didn't think Dupont was at his sparkling best, but what he is so good at is, like around those rucks.
Yeah.
He's so clever at when he decides to take steps with the ball and draw people onto him, and when just to give it to those big runners coming round. I think even though I agree with what you said a couple of weeks ago, Jim, he hasn't quite come back absolutely top level.
With the breaks and everything and the chip and chases.
But he's just so important to that team. And I read something, his win rate his captain record as France out of 28 games. How many do you reckon he's won out of 28?
Oh, it must be high if you're saying that.
25.
Ooh,
25 out of 28.
James, yes. Expert. Yes, James.
So it's just he's the best player I've seen live played against in terms of going up one-on-one. I just think he's so important to this French team. He's a presence. You see his name on the team sheet, you're already thinking that's probably 10 points for France.
So what is the solution for Ireland then?
I think they need to nail down their 10 and who they go with. I like Prendergast. I'm different to Goody on that sense. Biggs, who are you out of the 2 10s? And I'll maybe give it more on what they need to do.
I think Crowley is suited almost better to international rugby because you don't get life your own way all the time. Prendergast is probably a nicer, better player in terms of from the attacking shape, raises Ireland ceiling by being able to turn the corner, put people through holes, draw people onto him. But Crowley, and I said like Crowley raises their floor in a sense because he can roll his sleeves up. He's a bit more suited to international rugby where he can maybe have that bit more of that game management, a little bit more of the defensive side, not rely on having 60% possession all the time. He can sort of roll his sleeves up. So I think it's a really tough one because you kind of, I believe you've got to make a choice. Well, we did something with Rog the other day and Rog was like, well, okay, but if you back one guy to the hilt all the time now, and then 2 months before the next World Cup, he does his cruciate or gets injured, then you're left with the same thing again of somebody who hasn't had experience. And that was what one of the criticism of the previous regime was that you just relied solely on Johnny Sexton. So in Irish rugby and the Ireland coaches, I understand that why they'd be a little bit muffed at people saying, well, you have to pick one. It's like, okay, well, we did that for as long as we did. And there was complaints then that when Johnny had to come off, the next guy wasn't quite up to it because he hadn't had enough game time. So it's a really, really tough one. I think probably Crowley is better suited at international level. But in a weird way, I probably think Prendergast is a nicer footballer and a better footballer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's tough, isn't it? It's tough to find out who their best 10 is. Like, we don't know. They clearly don't know. And I think the other thing, passing judgment and looking at it, but also thinking about where Ireland have been good and where I was always worried for Scotland was around the power. And that could have been Caelan Doris. It could have been Bundy Aki. It could have been James Lowe. When I look at them now, I'm thinking, well, who are them players? Do they try and get Bundy Aki and say, all is forgiven, your ban is no longer there? I'm not saying that Stuart McCluskey doesn't have that, but the way in which they play, like Bundy Aki was very close to the breakdowns when he was getting them on the front foot. Caelan Doris would make meters. And I'm looking now, do they bring Edwin Adogbu in? Do they bring in Nick Timoney, who I thought was very good, but he's probably not the answer. But I don't know if he's younger, but he's a fresher. He's played less international rugby. So they need to win the collision somehow and get them on the front foot for speed of ball. And they get, maybe I should be a coach.
Get in there, Jim. Just worry about the line-outs for Scotland, pal. Get in there and sort those out.
Was interesting, though, how France definitely targeted Sam Prendergast's channel.
Yeah, and he's going to get targeted in every game he plays because everyone knows that defensively he can be a liability. And the stats around it, he missed 7 tackles in the game, which is the most in the game by any individual. Jameson Gibson-Park missed 5 tackles as well. He was second top missed tackler. So when you're 9 and 10 are dishing out 12 missed tackles, you know he's going to get targeted. And that's another reason why, even when he took the ball, remember he intercepted the ball near his own try line, he's running backwards and he didn't know what to do. And then he throws a hospital pass to, was it Osborne or O'Brien? And you like, and then the one that he volleys up the touchline. I mean, everyone loves just belting a ball as hard as you can and saying have it, but in international rugby,
that's how he plays. He plays like that. Like he's very loose, he's very free, very rangy,
and it's not helping Ireland, in my opinion.
But is there something that the coaches like? He doesn't have to stand there as a 10 as well, mind. I played against Bernard Foley loads of times, and I never had him in front. We were never able to send Jamie Roberts at him because he defended at the front of the lineup.
Goody knows that, Biggs, because he used to scrummage at 6.
Yeah, mate. That time I played against Jamie Roberts, they put me at 6 for the extra weight on the scrum.
That's right. Was that the Worsley? Was that the Worsley one?
Joe Worsley at 10 and me at 6. Just more bulk in me. What
I'm trying to say, Goody, is that there are solutions as well. Yeah. So clearly, at the minute, everyone with a pair of eyes in their head can see that he needs that needs to be worked on in his game. So while he is working on that, could you put him at the front of the line now? Could you put him at 13 closer to the line when teams are likely to come short off the scrum or the line-up?
Look at George Ford in England.
Well, yeah, we weren't tested, but that will come to bite us in a bit. That defence around George Ford will come and bite England in a bit at some point, without a shadow of a doubt. But they hide him well. They do hide him well. So that's a coaching thing. I think after that performance by Sam Prendergast, and it might piss off a load of people in Dublin, it may not. You've got to pick Jack Crowley at 10 as your 10 for the rest of the Six Nations and say, Sam, get yourself back to a level you were at last year or whenever it was when you were in the Lions conversation, because he's nowhere near it as a player at the minute. And it sounds harsh saying it, but it's true. Jack Crowley's got to be backed. Prendergast wasn't up to it and it wasn't his fault per se. It was, a collective, lack of intent and desire and physicality. And France were world class at times. But, if you want to look at something, you've got to change your 10 and give Jack Crowley a go.
Right, you've seen them both play now then. Can Italy beat Ireland in Dublin?
I can't see it happening. There's no better opportunity with the confidence that they've got. Michele Lamara is having dreams, and the dream must be revolving around something happening in Dublin. And where Ireland are mentally and from an injury profile, but that's about it. I'm with Biggs a little bit. I mean, they've only because he's convinced me on this podcast, but he's rolled out the facts. They've lost to France, South Africa, and New Zealand. What makes you think they're going to lose to Italy off the back of that?
I think if they do lose, then you can start maybe hitting the big red button. You know what I mean?
Oh, we will. Goody will. Oh, we will.
I think Ireland win on Saturday. I also think, Italy's expectations would have been Scotland at home, Wales away. Those are the two games you think for a win. But you probably think the only other one they could possibly target is the Ireland game, because they're not going to beat England and they're not going to beat France. You would have thought, given pre-tournament. So I think Ireland would be too strong on Saturday.
And score tries, bonus points are going to be important, all of these different things. And they've got the backs now to be able to generate some magic. They don't look like a team that will just roll over now. That's for sure. And they've got a very good scrum and very physical and look good in defence. I like Italy. Maybe I'll tell you. Right then, lads, that is round one in the bag. Time for the smartest call of the week. You've been waiting for it. Brought to you by our mates at Go.Compare, because making the smart decision is literally their thing. And Biggs, of course you are. Go.Compare are sponsoring Wales. You are first up.
Okay, so for me, the smartest call of the Six Nations, or the opening weekend of the Six Nations, I was toying between giving it to Gonzalo Quesada for his tactics and the progress that he made. But I think I've gone with a little bit out there. I've gone with Ben Earl moving to centre, and not because of the game on Saturday, because the game was won and it didn't matter about who played where on Saturday, but something that Steve Borthwick said in his post-match press conference. He said that, imagine you're in a semi-final of a World Cup and you're up by 3 or 4 points and a team is playing multi-phase against you, looking to try and keep the ball alive, keep the ball multi-phase, to try and buy a penalty or move their way up the field. And you've got a back row of Pollock, Curry, Underhill, whatever the combination is, plus Ben Earl at centre. 4 back rows on the field, trying to get a turnover, trying to sort of finish the game or get teams to force their hand and pressure them. So I just thought Quesada deserves a huge amount of praise because of his tactics for the weekend, but I'm giving it to a combination of the smartest call this weekend was putting Ben Earl into the centre, because we've bigged up Razzie for the last however many years about doing things which aren't inside the box and thinking outside the box. So for me, this is a longer term thinking, and I like the way that Steve Borthwick explained it rather than just doing it because it was Wales at Allianz Stadium on Saturday.
I think you've done an injustice and you haven't been honest about your Go.Compare smartest call of the week and who it goes to, because for me, Eddie Jones started this. He said that he was going to have hybrid players. So, Biggs, I'm going to level up and say you're giving it to Eddie Jones, basically. He called it. He called it before anyone that there's going to be hybrid players. He said Jack Noel. He mentioned Ben Earl.
Did he ever do it? He didn't have the cojones to do it.
Anyway, so that is my smartest call of the opening weekend of the Six Nations. And if you want to make a smart call of your own, head to Go.Compare and see how much you could save on your insurance.
Yes, sir. Right then, lads, in other news. There's only a few bits that we can speed through, and this is away from rugby, but slightly in rugby because this guy's a rugby fan as well. I thought I'd give him a shout out. Adam Durda has become the first English coach to win a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and it was great to see that. And he's a rugby fan. I know he listens, so a big shout out, Adam, to you. And yeah, had you on my show. Who would have thought that you'd gone on to do that? You called it. He was at Dallas Cowboys, and now he is winning Super Bowls. In other news, and it's sad news, Emmanuel Feo-Boso injured for the rest of the Six Nations with a hamstring. So, yeah, he's a high-operating, highly conditioned athlete.
He's like a racehorse, isn't he? Proper athlete, finely tuned. Ultimately, he could have been the difference, or could be the difference ringer. But we've got Henry Arundel. He's wheels as well. Massive shame. I think he missed it last year as well, didn't he? The Six Nations. So fingers crossed he recovers quickly and he can get back for the South Africa game in the summer.
And the last bit of news is the Winter Olympics is on. That's why the game was played on Thursday. I know a few of the athletes listened to the pod as well. And it got me thinking, Andrew, because you're going skiing this week, aren't you?
Yes,
and of course you are. Yeah, privately educated, posh.
Hold on, you don't have to be privately educated just to go skiing, pal.
Yeah, you kind of do. I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone that grew up on a council estate, Andrew, who went to a school there who goes skiing.
Well,
none.
Mrs. Goode used to go on ski trips at Camden Court, James, so that is a lie.
Yeah,
you had the opportunity.
Teached.
Yeah, but they were Camden Court kids. They weren't taking other kids.
I didn't get the opportunity to go skiing. I would have said no anyway.
There you go.
I would have gone skateboarding instead.
What's your favourite event? Have you watched any of it?
Bobsleigh. Or ice skating.
I've loved the alpine skiing, just like like when the camera goes to the side-on view and you can literally see how steep it is and how fast they're going.
That'll be me this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure you send a video in next week, Goody.
I've got a hilarious story about skiing. We went with Saracens when they rewarded us for being good humans. We got taken on a ski trip, and I remember, I don't know where we were obviously in the mountains. There was a lot of snow, and I couldn't ski, and you had all the posh lads who went to private school like skiing down. And can you drink and ski? Obviously you can.
Yes.
So I've gone down on my bum, and I'm telling you now, I'm doing 120 miles an hour. I could have stood up if I wanted to because I was really athletic back then, but I've gone down the whole way. Next thing, lads are shooting down like lemmings, and I see Alex Sanderson coming down, and he is holding his leg like it's been detached from his body up in the air. I'm like, now this looks cool as anything. Like, how are you doing that? Completely detached the hamstring. That's why he was holding his leg like that. It was absolute chaos at 5 a.m. So whatever that sport is or was,
you ain't doing that.
No, I'm going to do that. I was good at that when I went down without being injured. But yeah, big shout out to everyone in the Winter Olympics who's watching that. I said there's a few listeners of the show that are listening in the camp where it all gets a bit loose.
Right, then should we finish things off with the good, the bad and the ugly?
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to start off talking about England. Of course we are. Henry Arundel hat-trick, 28-minute hat-trick as well. Makes him the youngest English player to ever score a Six Nations hat-trick. They're all walk-ins, as Jim said, but you need to have wheels, you need to be in the right position. And it's always nice to get a three-fer. Do you ever get a hat-trick apart from against India, Jim?
No, just against India.
Okay, there we go. Well, he's got 11 tries in 12 tests, so I thought he deserved a bit of a shout-out at the age of 23. It's a decent record so far. Sticking with England, George Ford, Ollie Chesham, the big ginge, they were outstanding for England. Ben Earl as well, I thought was brilliant. So, absolute positives there from an England perspective. So they all get shout-outs in the Goode. In France, Mikel Guillard, he was outstanding for France.
Get used to saying it.
Yeah. Big unit, offload him, running over people. He was proper good. And then you just bring Mearfield on as well. Oh, my days.
I'm awful.
They've got some options as well. Matthew Jalibanta, I thought he was outstanding at 10, just bringing his way of playing, the chip and chase, then just flicks it back. Thomas Ramos, as much as he looks like an absolute shithouse of a bloke, he was outstanding.
You can't keep saying that you don't know that.
I do know that.
Just a quick question. Does Scotland get in the Goode this week?
No, not quite.
Well, I'm talking about Scotland cricket, because Scotland cricket beat Italy.
Okay, well, at least you won something, Jim, but it ain't the rugby.
Yeah,
this is a rugby pod.
Thanks for that. As well, we also drew with Italy in the A's. I'm sure that's going in the Goode. Here we go.
Yeah, but the Goode this week goes to Italy. It's the first time in 13 years that they've won a round one game of the Six Nations. 2013 was the last time they won in round one. Inventive in the opening 20 minutes, 12-0 up before the heavens opened. Lovely little kick through for the try. I thought they were outstanding in that opening 20 minutes, so fully deserved the Goode this week.
Error.
The bad, few bits of bad. We're going to start off with Gregor and Scotland. Looked lethargic, James, I thought, especially in the opening 20 minutes.
Lethargic?
Yeah, Gregor got out-coached. And Tom Jordan at 15 wasn't, for me, the right selection. So they get a mention in the bad. Ireland get a mention in the bad this week. Not only their men's team getting hosed 36-14 by France, their A team got hosed 52-14 by England A. And under 20s got hosed 50 points to 21. So a load of lads couldn't go out the weekend. They conceded collectively 138 points, which wasn't good. It was very bad. So they get a shout in the bad. What else was bad? I don't like saying this. I do like saying it. Carl Dixon, Ian Tempest and French TV directors, you're all going to get a mention. You know why. We all know why. First try was a forward pass. Second try was a knock-on. Reason I'm saying it, Jim, we are going to Dublin about 4 times over the next 3 weeks. So we'll make friends with people in Ireland and just get rid of Dicko and Ian Tempest and the French TV.
We're
basically
in Hong Kong with Dicko in April, so I'm being nice to him.
There
Great
we go.
lad.
But the bad this week, unfortunately, has to go to Wales, Bigs. Very, very poor. 4 yellow cards. It was men against boys. A real inept performance from them. So, unfortunately, Biggs and everyone in Wales, you get the bad this week. And then there's only one bit of ugly. Genji's wasn't a headbutt, so I'm not putting him in there. It was just a...
No, that's fair enough.
I'm just going to walk tall, and if he bangs into my head, I'm not going to put my head forward. So he doesn't get a mention in the ugly, but it's France Sevens player, Andy Timo. Have a look at this if you get a chance. He was playing in the Sevens this weekend, basically spear tackles one of the Argentinian lads, picks him, tips him, slams him on his head, and then the ref gives him a straight red, and he's like, "What? No!" I'm like, what are you on about, pal?
Well, the Argentinians are like gods on that 7 circuit.
Yeah, so Andy Timo, you win the ugly this week for a spear tackle in the Sevens from France. Andy Timo doesn't sound French, but he is.
Oui, le shout-out.
Le shout-out, très bien. Rodert.
Fatigue, yeah. Right, first shout-out. We got another live show, lads. Of course we do, but this one is on a Super Sunday on the 22nd of February. It's going to be straight after the France versus Italy game, the big one. So if you're there watching the game, stick around and watch it with us and the aftermath of that as well. So we'll be also reacting, of course, to everything that's going on that weekend for the Six Nations. We've got a special guest lined up as well, and we're at a really cool venue, like I mentioned, at Flatiron Square. So tickets are on the website, flatironsquare.co.uk. Be there or be Flatiron Square.
Exactly. Also got a shout out to Aidan and the Tynemouth RFC Vets. The lads are taking on the Three Peaks Challenge to raise money for dementia and cancer charities, causes that have hit their club very hard. They're also fundraising for Wooden Spoon while playing in the Vets League. Absolute legends. If you can donate or have a look at their GoFundMe page, please do. Every little bit helps. So good luck, boys. That is the Tynemouth RFC Vets.
Also got a shout out to the under 14 Nace Rugby Club. 7 out of the 9 boys reckon there is no hope that we will read this out. Well, 7 out of the 9 lads, you're absolutely bang wrong. So big shout out to the Nace lads.
Nice. Get it? Nice.
Great rugby club as well. Jordan Murphy's rugby club. And Ross, Jordan's big brother, is the current chairman.
Loose.
Yeah, Loose, and he's the current chairman. Yeah. So massive shout out to Ross Murphy. And Johnny Murphy looks like Harold Bishop as well from Neighbours.
Yeah, he's not aged well, that's for sure. We got another shout out. This one is in Hong Kong. We will see you soon. And it's to the Community League, because that's what we do. The Community League 1 winners for the Hong Kong Football Club Sequins, hell of a name. And it goes to Nazer, my old man bun. We're on a group chat with him. We do some tens stuff every year. It gets a bit loose if you're Andrew Goode. And for me, it's just great to go back to Hong Kong. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. Big shout out to everyone at the Sequins banter.
Yeah. And finally to the 4 fat dads who are doing the Triple Crown 800-mile ride from Melrose to Dublin, raising money for M&D. If you'd like to support them on their ride ahead, go to justgiving.com and search for 4 fat dads. If you want to make it 5, I might join you. I won't.
Cheers, lads.
There we go. Week 1 in the books, lads. Come on. See you, Scotland. I'll see you up there.
No, it's awesome. Looking forward to getting going again. Congratulations again to Italy. All right. I've said it. Okay. and it's all good. But thank you to everyone, as always, for listening. You know the drill by now. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube. There's loads of extra content going out through the Six Nations. Rob doesn't know. I don't know.
We've got something cool coming out later this week as well, haven't we, Jim, on YouTube?
We have, yeah. I'm going to be with Kyle Stain doing a walk and talk interview in Scotland. I was going to go to Spain and doing it, but I'm doing it in Scotland. So when's that out, Rob? You know I'm just doing the interview. When's it out?
It's later next week, but he has a really cool backstory I think most people probably won't realise.
Save it.
Save it, yeah. Just tease it. Just say it's really good. Don't
tease it up lovely then, Rob,
no,
as well.
There we go. That's it. Rob, you are very good. We should say that. Look at you, just dangling that carrot. There we go, everyone. Thanks as always. You know what to do by now. Just subscribe to the channels. Rugby Spod.
Spotted pod.